Zero policy, there's two reasons why it's not working. One, it's being misused. I think these examples are just small examples, but I definitely think it's being misused. The second thing, it doesn't really address the problem. I mean, it really doesn't address why the kid is doing what he's doing. It's just removing him from the environment, that's all.
But sometimes it's zero tolerance and they don't follow it. It's just not followed.
It's a situation.
No, it's not even a situation. It's just not followed. It just some of it just doesn't make sense sometimes. They say zero tolerance, but it's not followed. And there are other times it's just taken to the max, to something that just doesn't make any sense. I think it needs, maybe it just needs not say zero tolerance. Maybe that's just too black and white.
I think that has to be really reserved for the most heinous of offenses, if you will. I mean, for fighting,
Hitting a
and
teacher.
drugs.
harassment.
You know, I think really that's
Weapon.
it. You know,
Weapons.
zero
Weapons,
tolerance
yeah.
for
Weapons,
dress
yeah,
code.
weapons. Right.
A
You
real
know,
weapon,
There
not a
are
pair of scissors.
consequences, of course, but I mean, I don't think you go. I mean, you don't. I don't know. Throw your heaviest artillery at a problem that, in the scheme of things, is not. A major issue.
A kid in first, second, third grade brought something to school, and it was just a show, and they expelled them.
Yeah, that's when it gets.
And it wasn't to
yeah,
use it
that's-
in a
Yeah.
and that's why, of course, the board just doesn't work.
Yeah.
A student come to our school, she got expelled from her school for having a plastic knife in her book bag to pop the heels out of her Heelys when the kids were wearing those sneakers to Heelys. And to expel her for that, I thought was pretty extreme.
We deem as zero tolerance being effective, it may not be as effective if we don't find different ways to intervene. Zero tolerance sometimes works, but most times it doesn't if we don't find the root.
It should take into consideration other factors like culture, socioeconomic situations. It should take into account a lot of things that factor in.
In my opinion, education is the best investment you could make. So keeping those kids in the classroom and getting them to, advance in their education is the key to keeping them out of trouble.
I think if we involve them, colleges do this all the time. They have student disciplinary boards. You know, why can't we involve students in their own disciplinary procedures? I mean, why can't we involve them in counseling, peer groups? I mean, I think all these things need to go on at schools if we're going to really address this problem. Because us against them ain't working. And this zero policy is us against them.
Many schools don't use counseling effectively. I feel like sometimes you should speak to some of these kids and, some of them, and see how they feel.
Our students that we've had that have the drug problems that we discover, that have the violent action problems, if they, or other issues that they don't get the counseling for after their suspension or whatever, or get the help that we used to be able to provide with trust counselors and stuff, that we used to have full time in our school system, at our schools, then if they don't get that, then eventually those problems can continue to persist and then get worse to the point to where we won't have a choice but to arrest the child.
Part of the problem is our counselors don't do counseling anymore at the school.
No.
Anybody outside is completely unfamiliar with it.
Scheduler.
They schedule kids.
The name should be changed.
Right, you should be a scheduler, not a
Schedulers.
counselor. And
Right.
I can tell you a lot of those counselors that I've talked to, they're upset by it too because they said, hey,
That's not what they got into.
I got into this because I want to counsel kids. I want to help them deal with their personal issues.
I think rather than sending them to a place where they might be unsupervised for extended periods of time or not doing anything, it would be better to send them to what I've already said, like a counseling type of situation, getting to the root of the problem, giving them clearly recognizing that there is an issue and addressing it rather than just saying, get out of here.
I think the kids need mental health services. I think that they're suffering. I mean, if you look in their eyes, you can see that they're in pain.
Improving teachers' classroom management strategies, because I've just seen firsthand how that makes all the difference in the world. When I student taught, the teacher I was under just had 1 million, and it just made everything run smoothly where it didn't get to anything, higher levels of discipline because she was able to just work with the kid.
You have to focus more too on not just like what are we going to do if, you know, if the child does this to discipline them, but what can we do to prevent it before it even gets to that? Like as a classroom teacher, like what are things that you can have in place in your room to stop it before it gets to there, you know?